Nearly 64,000 now infected by the coronavirus in China, including 1,700 frontline medics. The toll on health workers hindering efforts to fight the crisis. A stunning show of dissent from inside Donald Trump's White House. U.S. Attorney General William Barr openly criticizes the president for meddling in government legal affairs. And the French president's favored candidate for Paris mayor withdraws over a sex video. Benjamin Griveaux dropped out while denouncing attacks on his private life. Welcome back to the France 24 newsroom. I'm Charlie James. In the past 24 hours, China has reported more than 5,000 new coronavirus cases and 121 new deaths. Now, that sounds like a lot, but in fact, it's the lowest number of new COVID-19 cases in 2 weeks. This adding weight to a forecast by Beijing's senior medical advisor that the Chinese outbreak could end by April. Concern remains, however, that new outbreaks could begin in other parts of the world. And over in Cambodia, a cruise ship that had been stranded at sea for 2 weeks was finally allowed to dock. Ports were worried about passengers bringing coronavirus, though no confirmed cases were on board. Karis Garland brings us that story.
Thank you. Greeted with flowers, traditional scarves, and well wishes from the Cambodian Prime Minister. Passengers of the MS Westerdam were welcomed with open arms after being stuck at sea for 2 weeks. The vessel had been turned away from Japan, Guam, the Philippines, Taiwan and Thailand over fears it was carrying someone with the coronavirus.
We're very happy to be here and glad that the Cambodian government allowed us to dock and go home. We're very happy about that.
Cambodia let us go. Even the United States, Guam did not let us land, but Cambodia did. So that's wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
Operators said the cruise ship, carrying over 2,000 passengers and crew, had no cases of the deadly virus. The Prime Minister's hospitality is another show of loyalty by the staunch Beijing ally.
Welcome to Cambodia.
Hun Sen paid a high-profile visit to Chinese President Xi Jinping earlier this month, the first foreign leader to visit Beijing since the virus spread outside of China. He even requested to visit Wuhan, where COVID-19 first originated, but officials said the trip couldn't be arranged. Several nations have evacuated their citizens from Wuhan, but Cambodia has refused to organize a similar operation.
The first passengers have also begun leaving the quarantined Diamond Princess ship in Japan. The government there gave permission for people 80 years or older, in poor health or confined to interior cabins, to finish their isolation on shore. This only after testing negative for the new coronavirus, however. So far, more than 200 people on board the ship have been infected. And here in France, the 181 French citizens repatriated from Wuhan have finished their 2-week quarantine. The group had been staying at a vacation resort in the south of France and started leaving this morning. Shirley Sipon with the latest on their condition.
Their nightmare is over. A first group of French nationals left Carry-le-Rouet before sunrise after 2 weeks of quarantine. Police escorted them out, just like when they arrived from Wuhan, the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak. After days of uncertainty, they now know all 181 of them are in perfect health.
There's no need for a follow-up because they've all received health certificates saying they're not contagious. They're exactly like you and I.
Rarely have people been so eager to leave a beachside vacation resort. The situation could have been tense, with concerns regarding the spread of the disease, but medical staff say the group remained cordial considering the circumstances.
They've experienced something unprecedented while keeping a spirit of solidarity on the site. They were friendly and all came to say goodbye. It was moving.
157 French nationals evacuated from Wuhan are still in quarantine in southern France. Most of them are due to be released on Sunday.
Over in the United States, a rare public critique of Donald Trump from inside his administration. U.S. Attorney General William Barr has said the president's tweets are making his job at the Justice Department impossible. Barr spoke to ABC News as Trump stands accused of interfering with the sentencing recommendation for his former advisor, Roger Stone. Aaron Ogunki explains.
President Donald Trump tweets a lot, criticizing Democrats, the media, and judicial decisions he doesn't like. The Attorney General says these constant comments about ongoing cases have got to stop.
I'm not going to be bullied or influenced by anybody, and I said at the time, whether it's Congress, newspaper, editorial boards, or the president. I'm going to do what I think is right. I think it's time to stop the tweeting about Department of Justice criminal cases.
This rare criticism comes amid the Roger Stone controversy. The former Trump advisor was found guilty in November for lying to Congress, obstruction, and witness tampering in the investigation over Russia's interference in the 2016 election. Prosecutors recommended 7 to 9 years in prison. Trump criticized their decision and the judge and the jurors. Then, Barr abandoned the prosecutor's recommendation. Critics accused Trump of interfering in the case and Barr of bowing to pressure. The Attorney General says he had made his decision before the tweet.
The tweet occurred. The question is, well, now what do I do? And do you go forward with what you think is the right decision, or do you pull back because of the tweet? And that just sort of illustrates how disruptive these tweets can be.
Democrats have accused Barr of assisting Trump, including in the Russia meddling probe, nicknaming him the president's attorney. The Stone controversy comes after the Senate acquitted Trump of impeachment charges over allegedly pressuring Ukraine to investigate political rival Joe Biden.
In other news out of Washington, the U.S. Justice Department has added new criminal charges against Chinese tech giant, Huawei. It's accusing the company of a brazen scheme to steal trade secrets from American competitors, as well as assisting Iran. Catherine Viette explains.
Chinese tech giant Huawei, again the target of U.S. prosecutors, as new charges, including circumventing sanctions imposed on North Korea, stealing trade secrets, and racketeering, are leveled against the company.
The new charges in this case relate to the alleged decades-long efforts by Huawei and several of its subsidiaries, both in the U.S. and in the People's Republic of China, to misappropriate intellectual property, including from 6 U.S. technology companies, in an effort to grow and operate Huawei's business.
Huawei is accused of stealing internet router code, antenna technology, and robotics. In their indictment, investigators cite the arrest of a Huawei employee in 2004 who was caught in the middle of the night photographing a competing server that he had dismantled. Huawei has called the new charges without merit.
This new indictment is part of the Justice Department's attempt to irrevocably damage Huawei's reputation and its business for reasons related to competition rather than law enforcement.
Washington placed Huawei on a trade blacklist last year, citing national security concerns. U.S. officials have warned the company, which is a leader in the new 5G network, could use its equipment to spy for Beijing. Its financial director, Meng Wanzhou, daughter of the company's founder, is still under house arrest in Canada, where she's fighting extradition to the U.S. over allegations of fraud and sanctions violations, claims she denies.
Next month's Paris mayoral race has been shaken up by a sex scandal this morning. Benjamin Griveaux, the preferred candidate of French President Emmanuel Macron, has withdrawn after what he called ignoble attacks on his private life. He made the decision after sexual images of him were published online, along with messages to a woman. Griveaux is a former government spokesperson and was set to represent Macron's La République En Marche party in the Paris election.
Yesterday, a website and social media posted vicious attacks targeting my private life. I cannot expose my family and myself anymore to that kind of violence, when there are no limits. it has gone too far. That's why I have decided to withdraw my candidacy for the Paris municipal election.
And here to discuss what this means for the upcoming election is France 24's international affairs editor, Armin Georgian. Hello there.
Hello.
How big of a nightmare is this for Emmanuel Macron and his party?
Well, it's clearly a big shock for Macron, given that, as you said, Benjamin Griveaux was his preferred candidate. He was hoping that the party, Republic on the Move, would take over the mayorship of Paris. That looks less likely today. He was clearly very unhappy in this recorded statement, but there seems to be a bit of a contradiction there, Charlie, because he's saying, these are disgraceful attacks on my private life, and yet he's deciding to pull out of the contest. So if it's disgraceful, why not just condemn it and move on and continue and carry on?
France is no stranger to sex scandals in politics.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, this is really a question of image, isn't it? The fact that on the one hand, Benjamin Griveaux portrayed himself as a model family man, and he's played on that image at certain times, showing himself, taking his children to school and things like that. And so if you do that in public and then a sex tape comes out which shows you in a completely different light privately, that's obviously a problem. And remember also President Macron, when he came to power, he was very big on this idea of moralizing public life, of not having these kind of inconsistencies, to put it diplomatically. So moralizing public life, that was very much a theme when Macron came into office as a result of recent previous scandals. So now this clearly, yes, very, very dark news for the French president just, 6 weeks before that mayoral election.
Right, and how could this shake up the race? Was he a top contender?
No, actually he wasn't. The latest polls which I've found, which is really from the end of January, they showed Anne Hidalgo being as really the top contender, and she is currently the mayor of Paris. She was quite ahead of the others in those two polls from the end of January. She's already been in power, of course, for a few years, so she's hoping to continue in that role. But Benjamin Griveaux, in the same polls, was in third place, so he was not a front runner. But now that we have this disarray in the ranks of Republic on the Move, that obviously is going to be, at least in the short term, good news for the incumbent, Anne Hidalgo. So we'll have to see what happens. But just to come back to what the stakes are for the president's party, they did well in Paris in the presidential election in 2017. Many parts of Paris voted for Macron. In the European elections in 2019, they won pretty comfortably as well. The party did. So they were hoping to kind of capitalize on that and prize Paris away in this mayoral election from these kind of bastions of old power, which have alternated between the Socialist Party and the Conservative Party. I think with today's news, that looks a little bit less likely that they'll be able to do that.
France 24's Armin Georgian with the latest on this story rocking Paris and France's political world. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to take a little bit of a U-turn now. It's Valentine's Day, and lovers around the world are celebrating romance. And with Paris's reputation as the city of love, you'd think residents would be all in on the flowers and chocolate. But as France 24's Florence Villeminot found, there's a lot of hate here for the holiday.
Ah, Paris, the city of love. When it comes to romance, the French have the reputation of being passionate, first-class lovers. When Valentine's Day rolls around, love is in the air. Well, at least in shop windows. But what do the French really think about this celebration of l'amour?
Parce que c'est plus commercial. Ce que j'aime pas, c'est quand ça devient une fête commerciale.
Après, un cadeau se fait toujours plaisir.
Les fleurs, il y a toujours des fleurs à la maison.
Si je ne trouve pas un compagnon, je vais rester chez moi avec mon chat.
Only a third of French couples say they celebrate Valentine's Day on February 14th. For those who do, a romantic dinner in a classy restaurant or a nice gift are the classics.
Heart-shaped chocolates worked really well this year. I think it's great. I love Valentine's Day. It's an occasion to think about your sweetheart. Why not?
Valentine's Day is a big day for flower shops. We mainly sell red roses, a symbol of love. It's good for us florists, but customers too.
Nothing says I love you like a rose, but florists recommend sticking to red or pink. In any event, avoid yellow, as it's a symbol of betrayal. You can always go for white, though, the symbol of friendship. Trends are changing, and so is Valentine's Day. These days, many people celebrate the festival of love with their friends, or even their favorite pets.
That's all for this edition, but do stay with us here on France 24. More news coming up next.